My stepbrother really hated me, but I always loved clinging to him. He once paid 20,000 yuan just to stop me from walking home with him, then paid 200,000 to get me transferred out of his class. But every single time, I got close to him again. After the college entrance exams, he transferred a huge sum into my account and said coldly, "This is 5 million. Go study abroad, and don't show up at my house again." My eyes turned red. I looked down and said, "Okay." Finally took the bait. Chapter 1. I caught Simon almost kissing a scholarship girl in the dim private room. He was slumped lazily on the sofa in the corner, eyes closed, his delicate features half hidden in the shadows. A girl in a white dress stood beside him, hands braced on either side of him, leaning closer, testing the distance. I suddenly pushed the door open. She jumped, spinning toward me in panic, her eyes wet like a startled deer. "Virginia." I walked past her towards Simon. "The driver's here to pick me up. Uncle asked me to bring you home too." He grabbed the jacket at his side, draped it over his shoulders and followed me out. It was late at night, the hallway almost empty. He closed the door behind him but didn't leave, leaning lazily against it. "She almost kissed me." I said nothing. There was a trace of irritation in his voice. "She's timid. Took her a lot of courage to do that." I unlocked my phone, showed him the time and the message from my stepfather, and whispered an explanation. "It really was Uncle who asked me to pick you up." He glanced at it and gave a perfunctory reply. "Oh, I'm an adult now. I've graduated. He can't control me anymore. Even if you tattle, it's useless." The flickering lights shifted over, illuminating his brows and eyes. His cheeks were slightly flushed. He was drunk. I clenched my sleeves, my voice thin as a mosquito's. "But," he cut me off quickly. "Go back yourself, Anne." His fingers tapped a few times on the phone. "Here's 5 million. Go study abroad. Don't show up at my house again. Let's never see each other again. Virginia, I really hate you." He never wanted to see me again. My eyes reddened instantly. I lowered my head, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Okay." Simon turned back into the room and slammed the door hard. I checked the numbers on my mobile banking app. Then I couldn't hold it in anymore. I squatted down, covered my mouth and started laughing woo-woo through my fingers. Finally, he fell for it. Chapter 2. Simon had hated me for a long time. He thought my mother and I were after his family's money. Well, he was smart then. When I was 14, he put 2 lizards on my bed, trying to scare me out of his house. I cried. My stepfather comforted me by giving me more pocket money. When I saw the money, I was happy again. At 16, Simon and I were placed in the same high school. He didn't want to be in the same class as me, but also didn't want my stepfather to scold him and then comfort me. So he skipped the extra steps. 200,000. You transfer out of this class. In first year, I left. In second year, I came back again. He hadn't set a time limit. When I walked back into the classroom with my bag, Simon's face went black. The boy in front of him grinned. "Simon, your sister's really persistent," Simon said coldly. "She's not my sister." Everyone exchanged knowing smiles. Simon looked at me, frowning. "What will it take for you to disappear from in front of me?" My eyes reddened. "Do you hate me that much?" He held up a number with his fingers. I bit my lip. "Sorry, wrong classroom today." Chapter 3. I discovered a business opportunity. Simon was truly rich. His mother, who lived overseas, had already paved the way for his future. When he played golf, I stood by him as part of the atmosphere crew, handing him water and his coat. He came over to question me. I looked up at him, eyes full of stars. "I just admire my brother. Is that not allowed?" He transferred me money. "If you've got nothing to do, go out and shop. Stop bothering me." Well then, I had no choice but to accept the payment with a smile. I clung to Simon for more than a year. Everyone knew he had a clingy little stepsister. Some even joked we'd end up visiting the orthopedics department together. Over time, Simon couldn't even be bothered to explain anymore. He'd just shove money at me and tell me to get lost. But I wasn't about to leave my personal ATM behind. At Simon's coming-of-age party, he drank alcohol. When he got home from the hotel, I greeted him with a bowl of hangover soup in one hand and held him up with the other. I was hoping he'd be so drunk that he'd mistype an extra zero when transferring money. He squinted, lowered his gaze at me, then suddenly said, "Virginia, you're really manipulative and calculating." There was a trace of mockery in his tone. I froze mid-step on the stairs. Being insulted? That's extra charge. Suddenly, without warning, he grabbed my waist, turned off the lights, and kissed me, pressing me against the railing of the spiral staircase. In an instant, the world went dark. All I could see were his eyes, magnified and intense. His breath came down like a storm. Shocked, I shoved him away. The bowl in my hand crashed to the ground and rolled down the stairs. From upstairs, my stepfather asked, "Virginia, what happened?" I stifled my trembling voice and complained tearfully like always. "Brother got drunk and threw a tantrum. He smashed my bowl." Simon lowered his head, leaning against the railing, silent in the shadows. My stepfather sighed. "He's always like this. Gets crazy when he drinks. Don't worry about him. Go get some rest. I'll help him." I fled to my room. 3 a.m. Simon messaged me, "Sorry. I didn't see clearly. Thought you were someone else." It was the first time he ever apologized to me. And it was an insult. He attached a money transfer. I didn't accept it. Didn't reply either. Chapter 4. It wasn't until later that I found out who that person was. One of Simon's admirers, Bianca, a scholarship student who always ranked in the top 10. She was insecure and timid, only daring to look at him from afar. Simon, of all people, actually noticed her. He once said, "She's just like Virginia, always putting on that pitiful act. Who is she pretending for?" He hated me, but he seemed to enjoy watching Bianca act like that. After school, I sat in the car waiting for him, but then I saw a girl in a school uniform walking behind him. The car door opened. He didn't get in, holding her backpack in his hand. He raised an eyebrow at me and said casually, "Get out." I froze for a moment. Bianca tugged gently on his sleeve, her voice soft and cautious. "Forget it, Simon. I can go home by myself." But Simon didn't budge. His tone turned colder. "I'm taking her home. I already sent you money. Get a ride back yourself. Why not just give me more money so I can buy my own car?" "Whatever. I know when to quit while I'm ahead." Swallowing my pride, I nodded, bit my lip, gripped the strap of my backpack, and got out obediently. At dusk, the crowd slowly dispersed. I stood alone by the roadside, staring down at the tips of my shoes as tears quietly fell, one by one. I didn't wipe them away until their car drove off in the complete opposite direction. Then I opened Simon's message. 20,000? Good thing I didn't check it in front of him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to cry. Chapter 5. Simon gave me the 5 million too late. I hadn't prepared for the IELTS at all, so I had to cancel most of my travel plans and social outings and hole up in my room memorizing vocabulary. Downstairs, Simon was throwing a party with his pack of rowdy friends. The speakers were blaring. I took off my headphones and headed downstairs. "Can you turn it down a bit?" One of Simon's friends patted the empty seat beside him and grinned. "Virginia, you're home? Why not join us?" I gave an embarrassed smile. "I'm upstairs studying vocabulary." "Studying vocab?" Someone finally turned off the speakers to hear what I was saying more clearly. I thought people who start cramming early only existed online. Even Bianca came to hang out. "You should too." Simon hadn't lifted his head the entire time. Bianca sat beside him, offering me a gentle, sweet smile. Then she hesitated, as if unsure whether to speak. "Virginia, you're not planning to retake the college entrance exam, are you?" We weren't that close. The way she said my name like we were besties, clearly, something was going on with her and Simon. She kept going. "It's okay if your scores didn't turn out well. Your uncle's so rich. I'm sure you have a lot of options." Sensing the tension, everyone fell silent. I smiled softly. "Yeah, my family's rich. Doesn't matter how well I do." "Bianca, are you worried about not scoring high enough?" Her face went pale. Simon finally looked up and gently patted the back of her hand, trying to soothe her. "Virginia, don't be so harsh." I nodded. "All right. I'll go back to studying. You guys keep it down. I put my headphones on and headed upstairs. A few gazes followed me, prickling like needles in my back. Chapter 6. On score release day, Bianca was at our house again. This time, her excuse was that her ancient home computer broke down. Even though Simon knew that our city released scores via text, he still indulged her and brought her home. Around 3 p.m., I heard her sobbing in Simon's study. I wasn't sure if it was grief or happy tears. The text message didn't show the total score. Simon held a calculator, punching in numbers and adding up her scores one subject at a time. As I left for my class, I passed by his study. The door was open. He leaned against the bookshelf, reading aloud. 672. Just loud enough for me to hear. He knew I was walking by, but he didn't even look up. And you? Bianca asked, confused. What? Downstairs. As I changed my shoes, I casually replied. 680. I'd overperformed. I waited for him to ask. Something fell to the floor with a sharp thud. Startlingly loud. Chapter 7. My dad wants you to apply to Zhejiang University. That night, Simon stood outside my door and said this to me. My stepfather is a pretty traditional guy. He values education and believes that having his children attend a top university gives him more prestige. I had my hand on the doorknob, ready to shut the door. But you told me to study abroad. Simon went quiet for a moment, then chuckled. So obedient now? Well, I did get the money. How could I not be obedient? Though in the past, I only ever half listened. When he told me to scram, I'd leave for an hour, then come right back. This time, I was honestly a bit embarrassed. 5 million. I promised I'd take the money and disappear for good. At family gatherings, Mom and I could sit at our own table. He said, so now you're ignoring what my dad says? I'd spent years pretending to be the model child in that house. I lowered my head, bit my lip, and clutched the hem of my skirt. Looking sweet and docile, he said, give me your password. I'll fill it out for you. I mumbled, just don't send me to some godforsaken place. Simon let out a soft laugh. You know I wouldn't do that. I didn't know, didn't care, either. I was already preparing to accept an offer overseas. Chapter 8. To keep things simple, Simon applied for the agriculture program at Zhejiang University for himself, and put Bianca in mechanical engineering. His mom had the money and the connections. He only needed the school name, not the major. As for me, he filled out all 80 preference slots with universities in Hangzhou. I had to manually delete them one by one. In the end, both Simon and Bianca were accepted. And naturally, he didn't care how Bianca felt about it. My stepfather was thrilled and started planning a banquet to celebrate Simon's college acceptance. At dinner, he opened a bottle of red wine and clinked glasses with my mom. Simon came downstairs, casually asking, should Virginia and I have a joint banquet? We had done a joint one after the high school entrance exams too. My stepfather smiled. Virginia will wait. She's going abroad to avoid taking someone else's spot. She deleted all her applications. She'll have hers next year. The faint smile on Simon's lips instantly vanished. His expression darkened. Abroad? I quietly ate my dinner, occasionally sipping from the 100,000 yuan bottle of red wine. Didn't like the taste. But the more I drank, the more I got out of it. No way I'd buy it myself. My stepfather frowned. Yes, the decision was a little rushed. But I fully support Virginia. It's a happy occasion. Why the sour face? Simon kept his eyes down. I'm not happy. My stepfather looked puzzled. You're the one who said you wanted to attend the same university as the girl you like. And now you're in Zhejiang University. No less. What's there to be upset about? The major might not be ideal, but you can switch later. You're not really going to become a farmer. Your mom's happy too. She wants you to visit her over the summer. Simon asked. Which country? My stepfather slammed his chopsticks on the table. You don't even know which country your own mother is in? He turned to me. I was asking Virginia. Silently, my stepfather picked his chopsticks back up. I put down my wine glass and cautiously looked up. Haven't decided yet. Chapter 9. At night, Simon sat in my room, using my laptop to search for schools. His was broken, When the preliminary admission results came out, Bianca got too excited and knocked over a glass of water. Seriously, a grown woman, still playing with water in the study. He was sitting in my chair, so I had to sit on the bed. The room was quiet, with only the sounds of his keyboard and mouse clicking. Go to the US, he suddenly said. Why? He paused. So you'll be far away from me. But that's the country his mom lives in. I looked at him, then curled up on the bed and inched farther away. Simon glanced at me, and there was a subtle, almost imperceptible smile on his lips. Come look at this school. There it was again, playing the big brother. So hot and cold. The air conditioning was set a bit too low. My bare feet touched the cold floor and I quickly pulled them back. Searching for my slippers, Simon casually tossed his jacket onto the floor. Step on it. He hadn't even been drinking tonight and he was already acting unhinged. I ignored him, tiptoed around, and made my way to the desk. His expression didn't change, and he moved the mouse lazily. What do you think? I said. It's fine. He flipped through a few more school pages. I kept repeating. It's fine. Whatever. Simon stopped moving. He leaned back in the chair and stared at me. Truth is, I'd already chosen. I just didn't want to tell him. Chapter 10. It started raining outside. A sudden summer downpour. The rain pelted the windows in steady waves. Are you mad at me? He suddenly asked. His voice so soft it was nearly drowned out by the rain. A completely random question. I thought for a second, then answered honestly. No. At first, I was. He bullied me, told me to get out of his house. He said I was just like my mom, both of us greedy, gold-digging women who only cared about money. My mom does have some money, just not as much as his parents. He never treated me kindly at school either, but a cold stepbrother eventually turned into a warm number in my bank account. So I stopped caring much about how he treated me. As for him forcing me to study abroad out of spite, I honestly see him as my benefactor now. But at this point, I was too lazy to keep pretending. There was no need. Then he asked again, is this your reverse psychology? That one was harder to answer. Taking his money and playing weak could be considered reverse psychology. Sure, just not in the way he imagined. I pressed my lips together, unsure of what to say. His phone lit up right on the table. Bianca was calling. He hesitated for a moment, then answered and walked out of the room. Before closing the door, he even patiently told her, I couldn't answer earlier. Sorry for the delay. So he can speak nicely. He just used to reserve the bad attitude for me. Chapter 11. Simon took Bianca on a trip. Bianca posted travel photos on her moments. By the sea, wearing a straw hat and a white dress. She smiled like a blooming flower. There was even a watermark from a camera on the photos. Caption. He said he wants to raise the younger me all over again. He wants to host a feast for my childhood self. I gave it a like. Scrolled down. I liked all my high school classmates' vacation photos too. Everyone's life looked exciting. Nice to look at. I love watching. Please post more. Then Bianca sent me a private photo. It was Simon sleeping outside, slumped over a picnic table. Virginia. Good thing you didn't come. Traveling is really tiring. It's still more comfortable resting at home. I paused in silence. Why is he sleeping outside? Did he run out of money? He's not going to take back what he gave me, is he? I got a little nervous and after thinking carefully, replied cautiously, then let him rest well while he's there. Don't let him get too tired. If the beach is too hot, he can always sleep under a bridge. Bianca typed for a long time. Virginia. I really need to talk to you. You and Simon are both adults now. As step-siblings with no blood relation, you especially need to keep your distance. I stared at that little essay. Silent. Copy. Paste into Pinduoduo. No reaction. Switched back to WeChat. Okay. Chapter 12. Over the long summer, I took the IELTS and sorted out all my application materials. Many universities were already accepting Gaokao plus AST scores. I did my best to apply for this year's intake. By mid-August, Simon had gone to college. I was still at home. The campus wasn't far. And after military training, Simon started coming home almost once a week. We barely spoke, but we still saw each other weekly. Sometimes Bianca came with him. One day, she followed Simon in through the door and was surprised to see me reading on the couch. Then she quickly pretended to act familiar. Virginia hasn't gotten an offer yet? Then you'll have to enroll next year, right? Simon tugged at the corner of his lips. Probably. She looked suddenly enlightened. Then you'll graduate a year later than us? I replied calmly. The university I applied to has a 3-year bachelor's program. Not sure what nerve that touched. She bit her lip awkwardly, then looked up at Simon. I didn't know that, Simon said indifferently. Not knowing is normal. Different starting points, and knowing more doesn't mean you should act superior. Almost felt like he was talking about me. I had no idea what I'd done to offend them, but I didn't want to argue. I closed the book on my lap and headed upstairs. Simon called after me. Which school? I turned around. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting a warm glow on the stairs. I smiled at him. Forget it. No need to flaunt my superiority. Chapter 13. Mid-September. On the day my stepfather and mom took me to the airport. It was a weekday. He wanted Simon to take time off to come with us. I declined. He's never liked me. No need to trouble him. I left without seeing him, which probably suited him just fine. Once the plane leveled in the air, I opened the shade and looked outside. All clouds. The ground was no longer in sight. The flight was long. I pulled the blanket over me, tucked a U-shaped pillow around my neck, and closed my eyes. Unexpectedly, I dreamed of Simon. When he was 14, a relative maliciously told him that his mom had returned. He had rushed out of the house in excitement, only to find me and my mom at the door. Ah, right. They meant stepmom, not his real mom. My first impression of Simon, dark. He was pale and skinny, listlessly staring at me. My stepfather was always busy. His real mom lived overseas. Maybe he was a bit pitiful, until I reached under the covers one night and found 2 geckos. After that, I figured I was the pitiful one. During our teenage years, Simon and I clashed constantly. My stepfather only ever hit Simon. Easier to discipline your own kid. My mom never laid a hand on me. She only spoiled me. I used to think about being nicer to Simon, but pitying a man always leads to trouble. The first time I tried baking a cake, I asked if he wanted some. He threw it away. The first love letter I ever received, he ripped it up. During his rebellious phase, he barely spoke, just repeated one word at me. Hate. He hated me. Hated that we shared a household registration. Hated the pitiful, innocent look I always wore. I got mad. Gave him the silent treatment for 2 months. When school started, he finally spoke to me. First thing he said, told me to switch classes. Second thing, he gave me 200,000 yuan. Now is that good enough? I gave him a sweet smile. Good enough. But Simon threw the voluntary transfer contract on the table and scoffed. Gold digger. Chapter 14. I landed in London, rented an apartment, started living on my own. At first, I couldn't adjust to classes in full English, couldn't get used to the food. I was miserable. I wanted to go home. Simon didn't message me until a week after I left. You left without saying anything? Yeah. Why? I took a long time before replying. Because I hate you too. No reason to inform you. When I hadn't taken his money, I never would have said something like that. Because I thought it wasn't worth arguing with someone who was that emotionally starved. Now I was in a bad mood. I didn't care about his feelings. Simon didn't reply again, but Bianca called, crying. What did you say to Simon? I flipped a page in my book and half-heartedly answered. Nothing much. She choked between sobs. He blocked me. I snapped my book shut. Startled. He slapped you? Simon hits women now? She could barely breathe through her crying. Once she calmed down, she clenched her teeth and said clearly, he deleted all my contacts. I said, maybe he got drunk and caught a case of pig flu. Just wait. He'll regret it when he sobers up. Then I hung up. Busy. No time to be someone's emotional support hotline. Chapter 15. After the first semester ended, I had a month-long break to return home. I traveled with a senior from school who was heading in the same direction. His family was running late, so he had some time to spare. He ended up helping me carry my luggage and walked with me part of the way. As I exited the station, I saw Simon. He looked a bit thinner, which made his tall, lean figure stand out even more. Without a word, he took the suitcase from my senior and walked beside me. No sarcasm, no avoiding me like before. Now that he was 19, it seemed like he'd finally started behaving like a decent human being. Who was that just now? He paused to ask. Just a senior I know fairly well. I replied casually. Simon said, you should be careful when you're abroad. Don't trust people too easily. A lot of international students have hidden motives. I looked up at him, a little unsure. That's not always true. I think my boyfriend is a really nice person. Simon froze. By then, I had already spotted my stepfather's car in the parking lot. I jogged ahead and pulled open the door. Mom was in the passenger seat. Where's Simon? Didn't he go to pick you up? I set my backpack down and replied. He walks slowly. I wanted to see you as soon as possible, so I ran over. Mom laughed. I already asked the housekeeper to buy groceries. We'll cook all your favorite dishes tonight. She looked me over. You actually didn't lose weight. 3 minutes passed. Still no Simon. My stepfather gave him a call. He finally came over in a hurry and got into the back seat. My backpack sat between us like a quiet divider. He kept his head down the whole time, eyes bloodshot. I had no idea what he was thinking. Chapter 16. At the dinner table, Simon remained silent the entire time, detached from everyone else. That was typical of him. He never made an effort for appearances. Everyone had grown used to it. After dinner, I didn't go upstairs. I went to the garden and sat on the swing. Crisp, orange leaves rustled gently across the yard. Simon followed me out. He stood behind me, his voice hoarse. Do you actually have someone you like? Or did you just make up a boyfriend to piss me off? The tips of my toes brushed the grass, forcing the swing to slow down. Why would I make something like that up just to anger you? Would something like that even make you angry? Simon didn't answer. What's his name? Bruno, I said. I wasn't lying to get a reaction out of him. I didn't play games like that. I really was in a relationship. Virginia, you've only been abroad for 3 months. I nodded calmly. That's exactly why I didn't let him drop everything and come back with me. He took a deep breath. Is he rich? I haven't asked. Probably not as rich as you. Few people were as generous as Simon. He used to send me money in tens of thousands during high school. Simon suddenly grabbed the swing's rope. The rope was rough. When the swing stopped, his palm was already scratched and bleeding. He walked around to face me, leaned down. His eyes were dark and unreadable, colder than the autumn wind that evening. What exactly do you like about him? He was too close. I turned my head away, shrinking back a little. He's just a really good person. Move. I want to go back to my room. Chapter 17. Bruno was a good person. I met him through a friend of a friend. He was always polite and warm to everyone, even in a group of a dozen people. He never let anyone feel left out. We met at a small gathering arranged by mutual friends. I couldn't get used to the food. Only took a few bites and ended up starving the whole night. Bruno had a UK driver's license. In the end, he drove my friend and me home. When we passed the villa he shared with a few others, he stopped briefly to go upstairs and grab something. He came back with 2 boxes of soufflé, one for me, one for my friend. He handed mine over, his eyes slightly crinkled with a warm smile. I baked these this afternoon. Try them. You can eat them in the car. I thanked him, and then cried while eating it. The homesickness, the pressure from school, the constant stress of eating poorly, all of it hit me at once. The moment I tasted something that felt like comfort, the tears just wouldn't stop. My friend panicked, nudged me gently. Hey, what's wrong? I sniffled. Nothing. It's just so good. She smacked her thigh and said, that's it. We're going back tomorrow to beg him to cook. He's amazing. He can cook Chinese and Western food. I wasn't close to him yet, so I didn't go. But the next day, my friend returned with a lunchbox and shoved it into my hands. Look what I hunted down for you. A takeout treasure. Inside the cute ceramic container, the rice was tightly packed. Half was covered in tomato scrambled eggs with beef, and the other half left plain. Lined up like a tiny wall were sweet and savory cola chicken wings. I tried to ask my friend about Bruno's interests, hoping to send him something in return. She came back later and said, "He only wants your contact info." Was that a gift? I gave it and added a little something of my own as a thank you. That's how Bruno and I started. Chapter 18. Simon didn't move a single step. He said, "It's easy to pretend to be a good person. You've only known him for 3 months. He's probably trying to scam you." His gaze landed squarely on my eyes. "He probably just thinks you look pitiful. Thinks you're easy to fool." What did he have against downturned eyes? Simon, you always assume the worst in people. 3 months truly wasn't enough time to know everything about Bruno. But that's how all relationships start. And at the very least, when I was with him, I was happy. He was always warm and gentle. He never said things to deliberately hurt me. I shoved Simon hard. He wasn't expecting it. Staggered 2 steps backward. I brushed past him, ran upstairs, and locked my door. There were a few more potted plants on the balcony now, ones I didn't recognize. I took a photo and sent it to the housekeeper auntie. "Me, auntie. What's this plant?" She replied, "Auntie, plumbago. Your brother raised them and asked me to move them here, so that when you come back on vacation next year, they'll be blooming for you." Plumbago. I used to love those. When I first moved here, I thought the balcony looked too bare and wanted to raise some plants. I'd heard plumbago was easy to care for. After school one day, I brought home 5 pots of them. Simon didn't even let me in the house. He stood on the steps, blocking the front door, his young face full of irritation. "I'm allergic to pollen. Throw them away. And you, go wash yourself clean before you come back in." Auntie told me that after I went abroad, Simon started growing flowers. Plumbago has a long blooming season. It still blooms in November. Simon even took a photo of them back then and posted it to his moments. Auntie gave it a like. But I didn't. I had him set to chat only on WeChat. So it turns out, he wasn't really allergic after all. I messaged, "Give them back to him. I don't like them anymore." Chapter 19. In early January, I returned to school. Simon came to see me off. Under the pretense of being my brother, I couldn't say no in front of my stepfather. But thankfully, I didn't have to spend the new year with him this time. On New Year's Eve, after class, Bruno came to pick me up. I couldn't cook in my apartment, so I went to the villa he shared with his friends to celebrate. Many friends were there. People were playing cards in the living room. Bruno was in the kitchen. I tied on his spare apron, pinned up my hair, and walked over. "I'll help you. I know how to bake cupcakes." He glanced down at me and chuckled softly. He picked up a freshly washed strawberry and held it to my lips. "Then help me taste this first." I took a bite. Sweet and sour juice flooded my mouth. Delicious. Bruno brought over a glass bowl full of clean strawberries. Was this some sort of test? I held the bowl in my hands, looked up at him, and said innocently, "I really did come here to help." He smiled. I know. Head over there." He gestured to a long dessert prep table. The countertop was filled with neatly arranged, pristine baking tools and ingredients. It looked like a toy set for playing house. Chapter 20. Bruno cooked over 10 dishes. I baked strawberry-flavored cupcakes. Everyone had a great time. Late at night, he drove me home. I'd had a bit of wine, my cheeks were pink and warm. I wasn't drunk, but I wanted to use the excuse to be clingy. My voice even got a bit squeaky and sweet. When we arrived downstairs, the cold wind stung my face as the car door opened. Bruno wrapped my scarf around me, pulled the fuzzy hat over my ears, and helped me out of the car. I held his hand as we stepped onto the thick snow. I deliberately walked slowly, swaying a little. The snow hadn't been cleared yet. It was a sea of white. I didn't see the steps clearly and almost missed one. Bruno reached out and caught me by the waist, pulling me back. We were so close. I nearly bumped into the tip of his nose. His skin was pale, but right now, his face was tinged red, like tinted porcelain. He looked beautiful. I thought it was the perfect moment. I gently tugged his sleeve, gathered my courage, rose up on tiptoe, and kissed him. The night was deep, the streetlights dimly glowing. The breeze was cold, but his face was burning. His breath was warm. After the kiss ended, I buried my face in his chest, blushing furiously. Bruno gently cupped the back of my head and let out a soft chuckle. I turned slightly and opened my eyes shyly. And then I froze. A man in a black coat stood in the distance, quietly watching everything from the foot of the building. It was Simon. Chapter 21. Bruno and I lingered for a long, syrupy goodbye. Then I walked into the building. Simon strode toward me, a chill clinging to his entire body. I had no idea how long he'd been standing out there. Snowflakes dotted his black hair. He knew the address to my apartment. Mom sometimes video called me while I was in the living room. No one bothered hiding anything. Still, I never imagined he'd come here like this, alone, in complete silence. On a night like this, our eyes met. We spoke at the same time. Happy Lunar New Year. Why are you here? Simon said. I came to see you. I averted my gaze. I'm fine. His jaw was tight. His Adam's apple moved as he swallowed hard. I'm sorry, he said. Such a strange, sudden apology. Sorry for what? Exactly? Was his mouth rented, charged per word? I said nothing. He hesitated, then stared at my face and added, I never touched Bianca. I just wanted to see how you'd react. She's not like you. Sometimes she tries to act like you. Aw, so it's about that. I said, okay, got it. Don't bring it up again. He looked down, and I couldn't tell if he was angry or just sad. He leaned against the wall and brushed up against some dust. He lets you live in a place like this? I was already living here before I met him. I picked this apartment myself. I actually like it. He gave a bitter laugh. Before you went abroad, Bianca and I had a fight. She peeked at my phone while I was on a lecture. She saw the money transfers I'd made to you. I never even kept track of them, but she did. She added them all up. Over 1 million. She cried. She said I'd never really loved her. Because, well, wherever the money goes, that's where the heart is. His voice cracked on that last line. I misunderstood. So, you want the money back? That 5 million from before I left, plus everything else. I could repay it all. I wouldn't have accepted it otherwise. I'd already planned to study abroad in middle school. Mom just preferred I wait until grad school. The money had long been set aside. Simon's voice turned hoarse. How could you think that? What I gave you is yours, always. I started to lose patience. My gaze wandered. I began counting the floor tiles. Then why bring it up? He went silent for a while. His lashes trembled slightly, and his fingers dug into his palms. Wherever the money goes, that's where the heart is. You said that too, once. Virginia, I like you. After all these years, didn't you ever notice? He choked on the last word. Chapter 22. One of the biggest illusions in life is thinking someone likes you. When I first met Simon, he was already too old to hide his feelings behind childish teasing. Back in high school, I did have a suspicion, but he was so unpredictable that it made it hard to believe any of it stemmed from affection. I shook my head. Then I guess I'm greedy. I want lots and lots of money, and lots of love too. You treated me so badly. I thought the money you gave me was compensation for emotional damage. He closed his eyes for a moment. I just didn't know how to say it. I always thought I was supposed to hate you, to push you away. I didn't dare admit I liked you. I couldn't stand having you around because I'd get scared. It was getting late. I was sleepy and let out a yawn. He was still standing there, so I hadn't pressed the elevator button. All right then, you should go. I'm going upstairs now. Simon's eyes were slightly red. I flew for hours to come see you, and you won't even let me sit down for a bit. That reminded me of the message Bianca once sent me, the one written like a dramatic essay. I pulled out my phone and began reading it out loud, voice full of faux emotion. I'm in a relationship now. Since we're step-siblings without blood ties, it's all the more important to maintain distance. Fight magic with magic. Finally, I sent Simon away, dejected and defeated. Chapter 23. Bruno eventually found out about me and Simon. After a year of dating, I chose a day when Simon wasn't home to finally introduce Bruno to my mom. But unexpectedly, Simon saw a grocery haul story posted by our housekeeper, and drove 2 hours back from school. During dinner, I sat next to Bruno and instinctively leaned into him. Bruno, I want some juice. He naturally picked up my glass and poured it for me. Simon stood up too, then sat back down, with nothing in his hands. Bruno noticed and smiled politely, a bit apologetically. It should have just ended with a few teasing remarks. But Simon's face turned cold. He set down his chopsticks. So you use pet names as part of your little games too? Bruno blinked in surprise. With elders present, he lowered his gaze and replied gently, "Sorry, that was thoughtless of me." The meal never recovered after that. I snapped at Simon. "What is wrong with you now? What does it have to do with you?" I hadn't called him brother in ages. He never asked me to treat him like one either. So what if I called Bruno by a nickname? It was the first time I'd ever yelled like that. Both my mom and stepdad were stunned. Simon froze. He looked visibly embarrassed, didn't say a word, and kept his head down. The soup in front of him seemed to multiply. He was crying, silently. My stepdad was even more shocked. Simon wiped the corner of his eye, stood up, and walked out. Bruno only knew I had a stepbrother, one with a bad temper, lots of money, a short fuse, and zero respect for anyone. He didn't know anything beyond that. After dinner, as we strolled in the courtyard, I told Bruno everything. Not a confession. I hadn't done anything wrong, but I knew what I said might upset him. I figured I might need to comfort him after. I glanced at him, quietly studying his face. His brows were slightly furrowed. I asked softly, "Are you mad?" "Yeah." So he was upset after all. I loosened my grip on his hand, fiddled nervously with my sleeve, about to explain something. He took my hand back, interlacing our fingers. Then he turned to me, exasperated yet gentle. "I'm not mad at you." He was mad at Simon, a man who knows exactly what to be mad about. We were on the same page. Chapter 24. I stopped caring about Simon. Life went on as usual. When the holiday ended, I returned to campus, attended lectures in the large amphitheaters, wrote papers in the Senate library, and had meals with Bruno. He was truly emotionally stable, and took care of me well, like a husband. Later, I prepared to apply for graduate school. Everything was going smoothly. Simon took up less and less space in my life. One time, I saw the housekeeper tidying up his study. She pulled out a stack of papers, all boarding passes, to London. Who was he trying to impress? Unfortunately for him, I had moved to a new apartment. The campus was crowded, and despite his many trips, we never accidentally ran into each other. Before Christmas, I received an offer from a new university, a better one than my undergraduate school. I had someone good by my side, a bright future ahead, wings grown strong with the wind. Riding the spring, my time would come.